Welcome, everyone, to Real Conversations with Nora. My special guest today is my dear friend, Regina Goodwin. Regina is a state congresswoman representing District 73 in Tulsa, Oklahoma. My topic with Regina today is the 2020 upcoming presidential election. Regina, share with the audience as you look at the political landscape during these last several months. What does it say to you regarding to the state of our government?
Well, I think everybody knows we're at a place right now. When we talk about the political landscape, we're in the midst of COVID-19, which is a pandemic that we've not seen in almost some 100 years. We're in the midst of a virus of COVID-19 and also the virus of racism, which has been amplified with the current administration. And then we're in the midst of seeing young people take to the streets as we've never seen before.
Absolutely.
White and Black and Hispanic and Indian and Pacific Islanders and all of God's children trying to right the wrongs that have existed in America for a very, very long time that we have all actually fought for some time. So that's the political landscape. And also you see that we're more divided than we've been in a while. So whether you're on the Democratic side, Libertarian side, the Republican side, independent, whatever your particular choice, that's all coming to a head. So we're in very trying times, and we've got to face these times and get through them. So that's the political landscape.
Good, good. How do you think American voters are feeling about where we are as a nation right now?
Well, I think, I think it depends on who you talk to. I don't tend to believe the polls. I think, folks believed polls 4 years ago, and folks were surprised. So I think it's when you talk to your neighbor, when you talk to the folks that you're having dinner with the folks that you go to church with, where you get your hair cut at the barbershop, the ladies at the beauty shop, that's kind of how you get a feel for what's going on in America. And I often think that grassroots folks know better than some of the, the pundits, if you will. Right. So if you ask me what I think is the climate, I think it is a very divided climate. I think it's racial tensions are high. I think unemployment, I think jobs are scarce, folks are afraid, all of that, all the things that you know from where you sit, that's what I see. And we have to contend with all of those issues.
Do you think they are likely to express their frustration or approvals at the polls?
Well, I think people do that. People tend to express, as you say, their frustrations. If they have a particular love for a candidate, that's going to be expressed. I think the other question, though, is while folks may go to the polls, and I hope that folks are voting with absentee ballots, the question is, are these votes going to be counted? Right. So I don't think the question is anymore, are folks going to the polls? The question now becomes, will the votes be counted? Voter suppression is real, and those are the things that we have to be concerned about.
Let's talk about the choices that Americans have at the polls, and what do you? And this is kind of like a two-part question. What does Joe Biden have to focus on in order to win over the voters, do you think?
Well, I tell you, I have been saying this since last year. Actually, we were at a conference last year. I believe we were in New York somewhere, and folks were talking about the differences of the candidates. At that time, it was a huge field of folks that were vying for presidency. And now we're down to two. And I really believe that it's more than one or two men. I think what's at issue really is the soul of the nation. And quite frankly, I think racism is on the ballot this year. And folks are either going to choose to push it forward, or they're going to choose to say no to racism. I think that's really what it comes down to. And I'm not trying to oversimplify.
Sure.
Yet, if you see the main issues that are being placed in front of the American people, it comes down to, how do we see each other? Do we see each other as fully human? Do we believe everybody should have equal justice under the law? Those are the issues that really are going to be won on that day or lost further on that day. So racism is on the ballot for 2020.
Okay. Gotcha. do you believe that the Democrats can win back the White House? And of course, we know that's on all levels, Senate and, congressmen and,
Yeah. Yeah.
mayors and governors
Yeah.
all across the
Yeah.
nation.
Well, Nora, let me tell you that I'm in Oklahoma. I'm a state representative here in the state legislature. And I can tell you, we have a Republican-led supermajority, a Republican-led party. So in Oklahoma, when I first came into office, we had 32 Democrats out of 101 members in the House.
Wow.
So we didn't have a lot to start with.
Right.
We're now down to like 22.
Wow.
So every year we lose Democrats in Oklahoma. So it depends on the state where you are. We know on a national level, they're gaining Democrats. When you look at Congress, there are more Democrats that are being elected. They finally are now in control of the House. But now, there's an issue with Mitch McConnell and the Senate side.
Right.
And even today, as they talk about criminal justice reform, that the House will pass it and the Senate will block it. So it really is an issue of, when this election happens, will the votes be counted? How is the Electoral College going to work? You know that actually President Trump had 3 million less votes in the last election. He lost the popular vote, but he's still called president.
Right.
So we've got a lot of issues in America as it relates to how our elected officials sit where they sit. And those are not issues that are easily figured out. We've had maybe some 700 attempts as it relates to Electoral College. And it's that's where we need to focus. We need to focus on redistricting. We need to focus on, will these absentee ballots be counted?
Right.
We need to know what measures are happening right now in all the states to block folks from using absentee ballots, which are absolutely legal.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So what are you doing or saying to get people to vote?
So what I say, Nora, is, first of all, we need to understand that for all the folks that think that they're not involved in politics or they don't care, their vote doesn't matter, we just got Medicaid expansion in Oklahoma after 8 years.
Wow.
Some almost 650,000 people voted.
Wow.
Now watch this. We got Medicaid expansion by about 6,000 votes.
Wow.
So think about 600,000 people cast votes, and the margin of victory was roughly 6,000. That's huge.
Wow.
And it's been a long time coming. So voters need to know that their votes matter. And I can tell you, in Oklahoma, the Black vote impacted that victory.
Wow.
So people need to understand that their votes do matter. They need to get engaged. They need to be informed. And for all the folks that say they don't have time for politics, it won't matter what they say or do. Again, if you go buy a package of hot Cheetos, right, and you pay the tax on those Cheetos, you're involved in politics.
Absolutely. 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 So what will Joe Biden have to do to understand the importance of fighting racial injustice in our country?
I think if we've been paying attention to some of the comments that have been made, he's got a long history. He understands what the issues are as it relates to race in America. It's not even, Nora, really, let's think about this. I don't want to give too much thought to what really has to happen to unseat a president who has not listened to the Constitution, has not followed any particular kind of law, has not really, he doesn't even trust his own folks. I mean, he's gone through more people in his cabinet. He continues to deride and denigrate and talk about two different Americas, and he feeds red meat to a particular base.
Right.
So when we ask, what does Joe Biden have to do? The question becomes, what do Americans have to do? Right? Because is it really about qualifications? Is it really about who understands foreign policy? Is it really about who understands economic policy, housing issues, racial issues? It's not. It really isn't, because if those were issues that mattered, we wouldn't be in this predicament.
Right.
So at this point, I'm saying, if this is about a battle for the soul of the nation, then every individual, every household has to ask themselves, who are we if we're really going to be this America that is so celebrated. How do we get to that place where it's an America worth celebrating fully? That's what we have to ask ourselves at the kitchen table. It's not about Joe Biden anymore. It's not about President Trump. It's about you. It's about me. It's about all of the folks that can go get registered right now that have never been registered, and saying your voice needs to be heard in this election. And better yet, we need to be really, really mindful that voter suppression right there in Georgia, right there in Wisconsin, we've got issues going on in Oklahoma. We got to get out and vote. We got to understand the importance of voting. But more than that, folks need to be informed. Just don't vote for anybody.
Right.
And don't get distracted by all the little hot button items that folks want to trigger your emotions. They want to send you down a path that's unhealthy. They want you fighting in the parking lot because you saw a black lady and a white lady and somebody said something to the other. That agenda has been set decades ago.
Right.
And when you see all of this tension and all of this hatred that's being spewed, you need to understand that's an agenda item.
Right. To distract people from what the main issues really are.
Yes. Yes. They will have you talking about that on many news stations. They'll have us talking about the fires that somebody else has started. And in the meantime, we're losing our rights as it relates to fair housing. We're losing avenues that we used to have as it related to job contracting. Those items are going on right in the midst of COVID-19, and it's not hitting the news at all.
Right. Not that they don't see the importance of talking about it or addressing those issues that are a main concern.
Yeah, like what's happening with your unemployment? What really happened to the stimulus money? Why are they saying so many fraudulent claims have been filed? What's happening with people that are being evicted from their homes? What's happening with criminal justice reform?
Absolutely.
What's going to happen with George Floyd?
Right.
Ahmaud Arbery, Terrence Crutcher. Right. Let's not forget that's where our focus has to remain.
Right.
Because those issues are not being resolved.
Right. On the issues that are at hand and not being resolved. Absolutely. Absolutely. So share with our viewers how important it is to demand vote by mail, because I think that people need to hear that as well.
Yes. And right now it's legal. What we have to do is make sure that our right to vote via absentee ballot, that it be maintained. So it's already on the books. We have to talk to our secretaries, our election boards. We have to talk to the League of Women Voters in your particular area. You need to talk to the parties that exist, because the bottom line is absentee ballots work for everybody.
Right.
You have to ask yourself, why would people be opposed to absentee ballots?
Exactly.
Right? Have the conversation. Say that again.
I said, unless they have other motives to do something different, which is, we know that.
Which is, what? I want to hear you, Nora, when you say, which is, what?
Well, that the reason why that they don't want those things to happen is because then those people can't be counted. And so it goes towards the party who is there right now. And, and the things that people really care about and are concerned about, but don't want those issues addressed because they want to obviously not be able to have those issues that have that counted.
Right. And that's absolutely right. So we have to press right now to make sure that our rights to vote are not violated. It's as if we're in the 40s and 50s all over again. And for anybody that thinks that real damage is not being done to America, I don't know what world they're living in, but they better wake up and wake up in this America that's operating today and understand that we have to become engaged. We've got to be informed, and we cannot just look the other way as if somehow someone's going to solve these issues for us. That's not the way it's going to happen. We've got to be engaged to a person, your entire household, Nora, your circle of folks in your neighborhood, the folks you go to church with. Those are the folks that we have to be having these conversations with. It has to be a grassroots effort to not be denied.
And what I was going to add to that, and not allowing our rights to be violated, basically, is what you're saying. And that, because that is the motive of the other, of people to violate the rights of people to have the right to do what it is that's legal.
And we cannot be afraid to call it what it is.
Right.
I could point to specific scenarios
Mm-hmm.
where when you look at the precincts that have had voter suppression, they're largely populated by Black people.
Right.
That's just a fact.
Right.
You know, the here in Oklahoma, while we just got Medicaid expansion passed,
Mm-hmm.
we still have a Republican legislature that just this year tried to figure out a way that we don't get these state questions on the ballot with the people of Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
If that's not wicked, I don't know what is.
Right.
When the people of Oklahoma have said, guess what? The legislature is not getting it done. We're going to go out and get a certain number of signatures from the population here in Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. And if we get enough signatures, they will then say, we'll be able to vote on this issue at the ballot box. And that's what happened. Mm-hmm. And because that happened, you now have folks flying into action, trying to figure out how the people of Oklahoma will not be heard. Mm-hmm. That's wickedness. Mm-hmm. And they're trying to put legislation in place that would put greater barriers on just everyday folks just signing a petition saying they want to be able to vote. They're trying to now increase the difficulty in having a state question. That's what's happening in Oklahoma. I would imagine in all the states that we're talking about, there's somebody doing something that's not right.
And don't you think it's important, talk about it just for 1 second, that how important it is for Black people to see that we do have power at the polls. I think that, you know, we sometimes don't think we have, like you said, people sit home, well, it ain't going to make a difference, so I'm not going to vote. You know, so-and-so's getting the White, you know, going to be elected, so I'm not going to vote. It's not going to make any difference. It's not going to affect my economy. It's not going to affect me, my job or my lifestyle, which is so untrue, which is so untrue.
And again, I think you have to meet people where they are. Mm-hmm. I remember literally I was walking through a neighborhood. We were trying to get folks registered to vote. And there were 3 young Black men coming down the middle of the street, right? You know, because they felt like walking down the middle of the street. And I stopped them and said, hey, guys, are you all registered to vote? And like, no, we're not going to be registered. You know, they're not going to do nothing for us, you know. Wow. And then so now, listen, the hot sun is beaming down on my face. I'm walking down trying to do, I think, what would be helpful for these young Black men, right? Right. And at the time, what we were doing a petition that said there was a sheriff that was in town who was not doing right, and we were trying to get him out of that position. And it required a petition, and it required you had to be a registered voter just to put your name down on the petition. Right. So I explained to those young men that a young Black man had been murdered, that we were trying to get a petition signed so we could get rid of a particular sheriff, and that we were out there walking in the hot sun on their behalf. Wow. And I said, do you not see the importance of becoming registered so you can put your own name on this petition so that perhaps somebody can defend you or talk about how valuable your life is? And then if we all join forces, right, then perhaps we can save a life, and that life might be yours. Right. And when we talked in those terms, then they understood. Then they wanted to get registered because they realized how significant it is. Just the small act of signing a petition you cannot do unless you're a registered voter. Right.
So having that conversation and explaining to them what it meant and how important it was for them to vote. Because again, people are just thinking, oh, you know, I don't need to vote. Like they said, it wasn't going to count, didn't mean anything to them.
Right. But it absolutely meant something to them because, again, we were out there because a young Black man, his life had just been taken. I'm seeing these young 3 guys coming down the middle of the street. It could have been them.
Absolutely.
But for the grace of God. So
for the grace of God,
we've got to meet folks where they are. And once you do that, they see the significance and they will get registered. It's funny. Do you have time for another story?
Yeah.
Okay. Absolutely. I was going to tell you that we were in the neighborhood again, you know, knocking on doors, telling folks the importance of voting. And while I was doing this, I was in a neighborhood and I literally saw a Black man, young Black guy, climbing through the window of a home. So I'm like, okay, am I out here witnessing a break-in in the middle of the day? That was my first thought.
Yeah.
Or am I watching someone who left his house key inside the house and like me, that I've had to go through my own window sometimes to get in my own house, right?
Right.
And having that experience, I was able to think two things about this guy, right? I didn't jump to conclusions that it was a break-in. I thought about the possibilities. So what I did is I called I went next door and I said, there's someone next door climbing through the window. Do you think that person is supposed to be doing that? And what they said to me is like, oh, we've had a lot of break-ins in the neighborhood. And so I said to the woman, well, do you mind calling the police just in case? She said, no, I don't want to be involved. Don't get me involved in this. Now, this is right next door to her house, right? So I go back to my car, I get my phone, I call the police, I tell them this could be someone who's just trying to get back into their own home because they don't have their key, right? I explain that because I don't want to be that call that when the police get there and they shoot this man to death and he actually belongs to that home.
Right.
So I'm trying to explain that. Police show up. They're in a bad mood. I told them not to park in front of the elderly lady's home, because she was afraid that someone would think that she called the police.
Right.
They pulled in front of her house anyway. Total disregard for this senior citizen, right? So I said, oh man, we've got these kinds of officers that are going to escalate the situation. So what I did, I went with them. They didn't say whether I could or not. I just walked with them to that door where I saw the guy going in the window, because if I can de-escalate something, I'm going to try, because I made the call.
Sure, absolutely.
We go in, they knock on the door. The guy answers the door. He says, I do live here. As a matter of fact, I did leave my key, and I have to do that from time to time, right? They said, well, prove to us that you live here. He went, he got mail with his name on it to his own household, and he was able to prove that he lives there. Out of that exchange, though, I was telling the young man, look, I called the police. I don't want anything to happen to you. And I'm saying that's while the police are there.
Right.
And guess what? Out of that interaction, after the police had left, he invited me into the home.
Wow.
We talked about the importance of voting and being registered to vote. And he got registered.
Wow.
Like, that was a long way around to get somebody registered to vote. But it is about meeting people where they are. Them understanding that you care about what they have to go through every day. I knew that it was a possibility that his life could have been in danger had there been the wrong officer there.
Right.
But that day it worked out. And again, I think we have to meet people where they are. And then when they see how important it is, and I introduced myself, well, I'm the state representative, and I was just in your neighborhood, and are you registered? So I think when people see how important it is and how they can have a voice and how we have to hear from everybody in society, because who better to talk about an interaction with a police officer than him? Right. And how his voice can help us when we're having grassroots conversations and we're having discussions on criminal justice reform in the community and police.
And it's a story actually happened that he could with someone that would really make a difference. Oh, wow. That was an amazing story. I'm glad you took the time. So what are you doing in your district to support that voting right? It seems like you going door to door, or, walking the streets, talking to people. What other things?
And so what we do now in COVID-19, our conversations are via telephone. Okay. Right? Our conversations are with the organizations that are getting people registered, helping them understand they can go online and register to vote. And so we have to do things differently in this climate because really we want folks to be safe.
Right.
But it's the bottom line is it's communication.
Right.
The stories are the same. The importance is the same. And so it's about communicating how we have to do it. We give them the deadlines. We let them know when you need to get your absentee ballot, all of that. And it's just a matter of passing down good information. And it's the same thing, Nora, that you would do, or anybody in any other state. We have to get the word out, and we have to have folks understand what's really at stake in this election. Far more than the last 4 years.
Yeah,
we have seen the damage that's been done. The undoing of America is happening in front of our eyes, and either we can watch it or we can become engaged.
Participate in it. You don't turn the channel. You keep watching the same movie over and over, and you're participating in the action of the movie. Actually, you're a part of the cast.
That's right.
Look at it.
That's right. And so, as they say, you can either be complicit. Or you can try to do something to make America really better than it is. And I think it's been said, and rightfully so, When was America ever great?
Mm-hmm.
When was America ever great for everybody?
Right. Not just for a few select.
Right.
Well, Regina, I want to thank you for being our special guest today on Real Conversations with Nora. Are there any last minute comments you'd like to share with our audience today?
Yeah, I would like to say this, that it's very important, especially in this day and age, that we not be distracted, that we be determined, that we not be deterred. There's greatness that awaits us in America, but it lies within us. Don't look to anybody else. Don't look to any particular elected official. What's happening in our households, that is where real change, these are the difference makers, the folks that are grassroots. And we have to understand our power. We've got to come together with God's help and really make America great. That should not be a slogan, and should not be something that's just shouted from some podium.
Right.
Greatness lies within us, and with God's help, that's where we're going to get there. So those would be my closing remarks. Let's not be distracted. Understand there's an agenda that does not benefit us. And if we're sucked into that, right, if we're baited into the nonsense, then we're losing. So we're winners. We're going to act accordingly, and God's already got us.
Absolutely. Well, once again, I want to thank you, Regina, for your insight on today's topic. And to my Real Conversation with Nora audience, please follow me on social media, on Instagram at BWOTMFG, and on Facebook at Businesswomen on the Move for God. Visit our website at bwotmfg.com and sign up for our weekly inspirational quotes. I want you to join us this year at our conference. The speakers are going to be totally amazing, and the dates are September the 12th through the 13th, and it will be virtual this year because of the pandemic. But you can register at my website at bwotmfg.com. And I look forward to seeing you next Thursday on Real Conversations with Nora. I love you much and have a great week. God bless you.
Thank you, Nora.
Thank you, Regina.